Welcome back to the Promotion on a Budget podcast. Today, obviously, we've got Josh, but this week we have our social media manager, Tom, who's come to join us. Say hello, Tom.
Hello, you all right?
Yeah, not bad. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Anytime. And today, in today's podcast, we'll be speaking about some of the transfers that have happened, as there's been a few big ones, especially with some of the big clubs in this league. And then we'll go on to what, as it's now halfway through the season, pretty much, we'll go on to who we think are going to be the 3 teams going up to the Premier League and the 3 teams going down to League One. Anyway, Josh, transfers. Go on, tell me something.
Yeah, there's been some interesting ones so far, ones that I wouldn't necessarily expect to have happened. I think the biggest talking point for me, if we take away, the biggest point from English club to English club transfers, it's got to be Ched Evans to Preston for me. It's a very interesting one, considering he was also the reason, supposedly, that Joey Barton got sacked from Fleetwood the other week. So how the player has also left the club, as well as the manager, it's a very interesting one going forward to see what might actually happen with that. I know it kicked off a hell of a lot of fuss amongst Preston fans, not necessarily the happiest having someone with the track record that he has unfortunately found himself with at the club. He's had a very controversial past. And a lot of the fans I know weren't quite happy with that. But I think that's probably the biggest one in terms of domestic transfers. Looking further abroad, you're looking at Stoke City and this deal for Ravi Matondo. Now, that could be quite a big deal for them going forward. Obviously, Stoke find themselves kind of in and around the hunt so far this season. It's all very close up the top. Very close. All it takes is a couple of slip-ups for the teams that are kind of near the top end, or, well, obviously Norwich being that little bit kind of clear at the top. But as you head further down the league, you hit the playoff section, you're looking at teams being a lot kind of more bunched together, teams able to kind of jump from outside to right to the top of the playoffs and then could fall back down as of the week after. So I think for Stoke, that's a very big deal. But it'd be interesting because he's coming from a Schalke side who actually today have won their first game in 358 days. So whether he might actually make the impact he's tipped to, I'm yet to know. But it's a very interesting one nonetheless for me.
Yeah, I mean, Ravi Matondo has always been that sort of career mode gem on FIFA or a football manager gem. I'm pretty sure everyone has used him. But yeah, there's been a few other interesting transfers. And there's one that we didn't touch on last week, which happened with Watford. Philip Sinkenragel. Tom, do you want to just tell us a little bit more about him? I mean, we don't know anything about him, so you're probably the man to tell us.
Well, he's a new signing. He's turned down multiple bigger clubs to come to us for some weird reason. He's a more right winger that seems to move in very centrally, and that's the position that we really need to fill because Will Hughes seems to be always injured. So it's a position we've been looking to fulfill for quite a while, and according to his stats, he seems to be doing really well. So I'm looking forward to seeing him.
Yeah, isn't he the guy with that FIFA card, that inform card that's like 95 pace?
It could be, yeah. So it should be very interesting to see how he gets on in English football.
Interesting. Yeah, that's scream.
Speaking of Watford, obviously Glenn Murray's gone out the door as well. What do you make of that one, Tim?
Personally, I'm okay with that. I don't think he really suited us. To be honest, he was only given limited opportunities. But from what I've seen, and I'm sure a lot of Watford fans will agree with me, it just really wasn't suiting him. He wasn't getting the chances. And when he did get chances, he didn't seem to take them. So I'm happy with him moving on. And I'm sure Brighton are happy to have him back eventually because he seems to be playing really well for them when he plays for them. So yeah, so I'm fine with it. What do you make of it?
Yeah, he never really suited your system, did he?
No, not really. It's weird.
He's very similar to Troy Deeney, and you kind of think he'd probably be Troy Deeney's understudy, but like I don't know what it is. Troy Deeney's just different to what how Glenn Murray plays. I guess Glenn Murray is less of a bully and more just a hold-up player. But
whereas Deeney gets himself about a bit, and Glenn Murray will just be in and around where he needs to be, and it just hasn't really worked for us. But I'm okay with it.
Nice one. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but Barnsley signed Carlton Morris from Norwich. earlier this week, and they put out probably the worst announcement video ever. Have you guys seen it?
No.
I will watch it, but you may need to describe it for me, please.
So obviously we've all seen the In-Betweeners. We're British. We have been through our teenage years, so we've all seen the In-Betweeners. And basically with Barnsley, they did the Friends scene with Carlton Morris, because one of Barnsley's players played MK Dons with Carlton Morris, and they did the Friends scene, and it was absolutely horrific. They had one of their players, who I believe is foreign, do the Friends scene, and saying all Friends just did not work at all. So yeah, it's very interesting. But
yeah, no, it's not something I've seen. I mean, I'm just having a look now because we're on the whole talk of transfers. If you look at the general scale of things, the transfer window's been open for a little over a week. Now, I know a lot of clubs are kind of it's still paper talk more than anything. That's kind of spurring fans on to want their club to do something. That's ultimately what you see with a transfer window, especially a January transfer window. Fans always want their club to do something to benefit the run-in for the season. Obviously, like we said, we're at the midway point. So you're looking at the teams up the top. All of the fans want to make sure their team stays there. The teams are still in the hunt or kind of in and around, make sure they can get the teams down the bottom. The fans obviously want changes to be made for them to stay up. The most interesting thing for me is in this very, very short period of time, we've seen Preston make 3 signings. Obviously, I've touched on Ched Evans being a loan signing. They've had to bring in another goalkeeper on a loan deal because I believe Declan Rudd, who was their first team keeper, if I'm not mistaken, is out injured now for probably the foreseeable future. And they've also brought in a lad called Jason Malumbi. Now, he's an Irish international, a midfielder. He's coming in from Premier League quality in Brighton. Could that be something that spurs them forward? I mean, I know today's FA Cup result for them is probably not a great thing to go by, and they really haven't done themselves any favours losing 4-1 to Wycombe. But all things considered, you'd look at that going, right, they've made 3 signings quite quickly off the bat. If they've got time to make more, and they're going to make more, could they ensure their status in the league as a first point? Because they have obviously had quite a roller coaster with results, but could they potentially be a late push for the playoffs kind of team?
It could happen. I mean, what we've spoke about with Preston in multiple podcasts is their inconsistent form, and I think they need to find sort of a backbone in the side to, when you pick up a result, to continue picking up results, and they haven't had that. So if these new signings can help them, find that consistent reign of form again, then potentially, they could get a late push to the playoffs. As you say, it's very, very tight around that sort of area. But another signing that happened, I think yesterday, is Rolando Aarons has finally left Newcastle and has joined Huddersfield Town. I don't know if Huddersfield are crying out for a winger, because they've got Josh Koroma, who is one of the hottest young talents in the Championship now. Doing really well. I don't know of any other wingers.
I remember he was injured. I'm not sure how long he's going to be out for.
But
I remember we did talk about him being out injured.
But I think Rolando Aarons in this division, it will be a top quality player. I don't think he never cut it in the Premier League. Never quite got the minutes for Newcastle. And when he did, he didn't really shine. So I think for him to leave, go to Huddersfield, maybe find a new reign of form in the Championship, it will be good for him.
I think it'll be interesting to see as well. See if he does adapt to Championship football. Obviously, being in Newcastle for so long, it will just be interesting to see if he fits in, and then hopefully can progress his career a bit further.
Yeah, I mean, having watched that Huddersfield side play as recently as last week, obviously they've got the quality going forward in the likes of Juninho Bacuna, Fraser Campbell, Isaac Mbenza. Then you look further back the pitch, they've got Naby Sarr at the back playing with Harry Toffolo. There's quality in that side, but
it's a good team.
They did lack that kind of little spearhead at the front of the attack. Obviously, take nothing away from Fraser Campbell because he did score in that game, but they were missing final product. Like, they, statistics-wise, had more of the ball, but they weren't clinical in their shooting. They had chances. They hit the target twice, one of which went in. If you're asking of an opposition keeper to make well, you in essence, hitting the target is an opportunity for 2 saves. In that game, Raphael conceded 1, and he made 1 save. Teams like Huddersfield will want more of an attacking threat, and that is something that could be brought to them through their signing.
Maybe is that why Huddersfield haven't really pushed on since getting relegated? They've lost obviously Laurent de Poitre, another striker beginning with an M. I can't remember his name, but he was in the Premier League with him, and they've lost that sort of that sort of threat going forward, and they haven't really found a player that has been able to, do that again for him. Maybe Rolando Aarons is that man. But I don't know. Rolando Aarons is he just doesn't strike me as a player that's really going to bring a team from the Championship to the Premier League. But we'll see how he does. And hopefully Huddersfield can, maybe find some form.
Yeah, I mean, I do completely agree with you on what you said in regards who Huddersfield have lost since they came down from the Premier League and as to why they might have struggled. If we look at kind of transfers that they've had go out recently, they had Colin Quainer, who left. They've had Emil Smith-Rowe's loan deal finished. Jonas Lössl, obviously his loan deal finished from Everton. Trevor Chalobah's loan deal. They were quite dependent on loans for a little while. And then you look at who they did actually have. They lost Elias Kachunga on a free. They lost Steve Mounier.
That's it. That's his name.
They lost Carlin Grant. They lost Terence Congolo. They've lost a lot of talent that was kind of keeping that team together. So to speak, the core, as long as, well, a lot of those players weren't necessarily there for the longest period of time. Obviously, Mounier only signed for them when they were in the Premier League. But it was kind of the core of the team that was actually getting them to go forward. Obviously, Mounier had quite a tough time with Huddersfield, I would say, quite injury-stricken, not necessarily able to break through as much as he might have wanted. But the one thing that, for me, you can't ignore is if you look at the kind of money that they've bought in off of these players. Carlin Grant went just shy of 15 million. Mounier went for about 4.5. Congolo went for about 4. Where's that money gone? Because they've not. I wouldn't say they've bought anyone in that screams about. You're looking at kind of just over 20 million pounds worth there. I wouldn't say they've spent 20 million pounds. So
maybe the club's got some sort of financial sort of debt going on. I don't know, in the backroom area.
But even based on parachute payments, you'd think that they'd maybe have a bit more to kind of go, look, go and get some results, go get some people that are going to make a difference to this side. I say it's a really interesting one because Huddersfield are sat mid-table as it stands, but they are again one of those teams that can kind of go good in form and then go and play kind of on a massive seesaw of how they actually perform week in, week out.
100%. Yeah, Huddersfield, I think, we've all seen they have got that sort of quality. I mean, Tim's been on the back end of that quality, losing 2-0. But no, we all know that Fulham do. They're not a bad. Fulham. Sorry, Huddersfield. Well, I'm on about Fulham. Yes, because I've just got a goal notification come through saying Fulham has scored. Great, so Eden's going to be happy. Huddersfield really. It's just about finding. It's similar to Preston. It's finding that consistent vein of form that will bring them forward in a division and get them into those playoff places. Whether they'll do it this season, I'm not sure. Next season, I think it's going to be more of an opportunity for them to do that. Anyway, another interesting transfer rumour which I have seen is Jack Wilshere, and obviously Jack Wilshere has been training with Bournemouth. Obviously, he's been neglected by West Ham and everything. Arsenal just got rid of him, and no one really wants him. But he was on loan at Bournemouth a few seasons back. Seems to be okay there, and now they want him back, and he's doing trials with him and training with him. So it's that could be another one for the Championship. And for Bournemouth, that could be really big. Obviously, Jack Wilshere would absolutely love playing in a Championship. He'd have a field day every week, and it'd do really, really well. And that could be Bournemouth's push for promotion. I don't know what you guys think.
Yeah, obviously we've seen the quality that Jack Wilshere has. I'm just not sure, I'll be honest, because Bournemouth's midfield seems to be very, very strong. Right now you can see you've got Jefferson Lerma in there, you've got Lewis Cook in there. Do they really need... I know obviously Jack Wilshere will just strengthen that. But if you look at it already, can you really separate the partnership between Lerma and Cook? Does Wilshere offer anything different to that they're not already succeeding in? I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's a really, really weird one for me. I've kind of taken the stance of this one a bit more on the financial side of things. I can't imagine Jack Wilshere's wages will be quite small unless he's seen it as because he's a free agent and he wants to get back into playing. He's going to a team that he used to play for. He might have a bit of a soft spot for them. He might have offered to take a massive wage cut. Now, I know Jefferson Lerma was obviously rumoured to be leaving the club over the course of summer because of how much his wages were. So if Bournemouth could negotiate with Wilshere to take a lower wage packet, it might then free up them to kind of take Lerma and go, look, there you go, off you go. Try and find yourself somewhere where you can get paid what you want to be paid. Because if Bournemouth don't go up this season, their kind of structure is not sustainable at all. The way they've managed to hold on to their players that they had on the whole from the Premier League, but if this wage cap comes in that we keep hearing knockings about, they won't be able to keep hold of most of the squad that they've currently got, or not necessarily they'll go to the Premier League. They might look abroad, because at this point now, if the wage cap isn't brought on like unanimously across a multitude of leagues, players will just go to wherever's going to pay them the most money, and you could ultimately see a slip in kind of quality, so to speak. And the way that I see this with Bournemouth is Jack Wilshere, yes, is a great player to have, and he's very experienced. He knows what he's doing, obviously, international quality, Premier League quality. But long term, it could actually be a bit of a banana skin for Bournemouth, especially if they don't go up this year.
Yeah, I mean, I can't see Bournemouth not going up, but yeah, it is an interesting subject. Anyway, going off transfers, now it's the halfway point in the season. Obviously, 3 teams have got to go up and 3 teams have got to go down. Josh, I'll start with you. What are your 3 teams to go down?
My 3 teams that I think are going to get relegated this season. I'm going to go a little bit controversially with this one. I think Derby are going to finish rock bottom. They've been dreadful. No, there's no other way to say it. I mean, they have picked up, yes, I'll admit that. On the whole, they've been dreadful. And all it would take is for something like this COVID outbreak that they've currently got at the club to rumble on for a number of weeks. And you look at it, okay, not their first team, because they didn't play their first team today. They lost to Chorley in the FA Cup today. If these lads have to then play next week, and then we've got a midweek set, and then we've got enough, if it rumbles on for enough time where people are infected or still infectious, it could actually really hamper Derby. It will knock their momentum, and they'll be building from the ground again. Some of the players that they have in this squad, if someone comes in for them, the player would more likely want to leave because of how badly the club are doing. And I think Derby have got some quality players in that squad individually who very easily could just leave the club this transfer window. So I think Derby are my first team. I think Sheffield Wednesday will go down because I think there's too much going wrong at that club at the minute. Unfortunately, I can't see them being able to. Yes, they're slightly on a bend of recovery, but it only looks like that way on the league table because Rotherham have played 3 less games than them. If you take Rotherham, all they need to do is win one of those games and they're practically back above Sheffield Wednesday, or if they draw all 3, for example. And then the final team I'm going to go for, I actually think that QPR are going to go down.
Okay.
Now, I don't say that lightly. I say that in the sense that I can, like I said with Derby, they're having a struggling season. They've been poor. They have the likes of Elias Chair, who is a very, very good player. Bright Osei-Samuel, another very good player, who, if the right offer comes in for them in January, I don't see why they'd stay at a team that is struggling, a team that is really not able to find their form at the moment. And quite frankly, why would they not, especially if they're offered more money to go elsewhere?
So you think Wycombe are going to stay up?
I think Wycombe are going to stay up.
Interesting. Anyway, Tim, what about you then? What are the 3 teams that you think are going to go down?
So you're going to hate me, but I'm going to be very, very boring and go for the teams that are currently the 3 bottom.
Okay.
We'll start off with Derby. Obviously, Josh made some very good points there. They just really don't look like a good team. Although Wayne Rooney's introduction as manager has given them a little bit of a boost. Now they've got a few results recently, but as Josh said, with this coronavirus stuff, if it does rumble on for a few weeks, that's a few games that they're not going to get many points at all. And then you think that run will just lapside. There won't be much of a bonus after that's finished that will give them enough points to stay up. So I'll go with them, but I think they'll finish 22nd because I think they are both better than Rotherham and Wickham. Wickham they can't score. They can't really defend.
I mean, you say they can't score. They just put four past Preston today. Well, that is the FA Cup. That is the FA Cup.
Yeah. In the Championship, we'll go. They can't really seem to score.
Ironically, you're saying that both teams have scored more than Sheffield Wednesday.
That's interesting.
I did not know that. I'm looking at the table now. Sheffield Wednesday have got a better defensive record than both of them, but Sheffield Wednesday have scored less than both Rotherham and Wickham. Wickham's main issue is conceding, quite frankly. They conceded 35 goals in 23 games.
Yeah, and that's where the problem starts, is if you can't stop conceding goals, you're not going to pick up points. And that's shown by the first 23-4 games, however many they played. They're bottom of the table because they can't stop conceding. So I reckon they'll go bottom, and then just above them, I'll go with Rotherham, who I actually think they'll do quite well. I think there'll be a bit of a gap between Wickham and Rotherham. I think the Rotherham do have some quality. I just don't think it's enough to stay up this year. Duncan, would you like to give us your, which will definitely be controversial?
I mean, it's not going to be controversial at all. I think rock
he
bottom.
thinks that Norwich are going to stay up. He thinks that Watford and Reading are getting relegated with Cardiff. That's going to be all.
Well, Wickham rock bottom. You've said it all, Tom. There's nothing else to say about Wickham. They're just not Championship ready. Then 23rd, I'm going to go with Sheffield Wednesday. There is a lot of problems at that club. And then the best out of a bad bunch, Derby County, finishing 22nd. So obviously very similar to what you guys have said, but still interesting. I mean, QPR and Rotherham, interesting. Anyway, Josh, we'll go back to you. Which are the three sides that you think will go up this season?
Right. Do you want the three sides that are going to go up, or do you want a top six and a playoff winner?
We'll go top two.
A top six and a playoff winner could be quite funny.
Yeah, so top two, and then the four.
Your playoffs.
Your playoffs, and who you think's going to win the playoffs?
Yeah. So, you're going to hate me for this. I think Swansea are going to win the league.
Good joke.
Do you want to hear why?
Yeah, go on.
We need an explanation for this.
They not only can score goals, ironically saying that they drew 0-0 with Reading not too long ago, they can score goals and they've got the quality to score goals, but they have also got by far the best defence in the league. This is statistically, I'm not saying opinionated, statistically, they have the best defence in the league.
Right.
Conceding 13
I'm just going to come back
goals.
to you, Josh.
Unreal.
Head to head, Norwich Swansea this season.
I'm not looking at head to head.
Who won?
Mate,
you got to beat the teams around you.
We beat you, and that doesn't mean we're better than you, does it?
Stop your ego and listen.
Sorry.
It's an opinion. I think Swansea's defensive record will get them over the line.
That's true.
That is true. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's going to be very, very tight. I don't think they're going to night and day you.
No,
but it's going to be very tight.
Yeah, no, I can see that, but I think what I'm looking now is Swansea. They draw too many games. Norwich are very good at actually finishing teams off. Norwich haven't won more than 3 goals a season, but we're very good at seeing out games. Apart from when we play Coventry and QPR, but we'll take that as a question. But yeah, so that's your top. So I'm guessing your top 2 Swansea, Norwich.
Yeah, so as I was going to go on to, I think second place Norwich will go up. They've got too much quality. They've got too much quality in that team. Ultimately, they are not built for this league. They're too good for the league with who they've managed to keep hold of coming down from the Premier League. The only thing that would hamper you is another injury crisis. I know you made it through the first one, or like we say with a COVID crisis, all it would be is for a COVID crisis to wipe you out a little bit. This is the same for every club.
Yeah.
Every club runs this risk at the minute. But you said it time and time again, you don't have certain amounts of depth in certain positions.
Yeah.
And all it would be is a little outbreak could hamper you in a certain area. And if a team is good enough, if you play against a team like Brentford, who could target that and will do so, they will wipe the floor with you. But it's the same with any team. Any
100%.
team who suffers like that, I think will struggle. But you, I know specifically, and we've said it on the pod before, you don't have depth in certain positions and you really struggle with that. So ultimately, you will finish second, but it's going to be very, very tight.
And I think that was shown, actually. Sorry, Ducker.
Yeah, go for it.
At the start of the season, when Norwich had so many, was it injuries or just people couldn't play?
Injuries.
You started the season off slow, not particularly slow, but still slow for the standard that you're currently at. So it just shows that not just you, but if any team gets a significant amount of injuries, then picking up points is very difficult in this league. So I think Josh makes a very good point that if you do happen to have a situation, and Swansea will be very, very strong.
Yeah, definitely. Josh, what was your so from 3rd to 6th, your playoff places?
So from 3rd to 6th, and I'll do it in order as well. Brentford are going to finish 3rd for me. I think they're just going to miss out on the top. I think it's going to be kind of a 3-horse race, in my opinion. I think it's going to be those 3 teams right at the top, closely followed in 4th place by Bournemouth, who I think kind of come the end of the season are going to drop off ever so slightly and just be away from the teams that are going to be right up the top. Then in 5th place, I'm saying Watford, because quite frankly, like I've said with Norwich and with Swansea, you've got players that are too good for this league.
Ben Foster, the Cycling GK.
Cycling GK. Referring to his real name, please.
Cycling GK. What a bloke.
And then in 6th place, this is where I struggle. I'm looking at the league table now, and you've got sides that are just outside. Middlesbrough, who seem to be doing quite well on the grand scheme of everything. You've got Stoke, who are they have not won as many games as the teams around them. Barnsley, who somehow find themselves in the top 10. It's unbelievable. Bristol City, who obviously were flying at the start of the season, who have now dropped off. Blackburn, who were scoring for fun, but seem to not be able to win many games. They lose quite a few. And that's kind of your top half. So 6th place, I'm going to go for the dark horse. I'm going to put Barnsley in 6th.
Ooh, good show.
I love it.
I like that.
Who's going to win the playoffs, Josh? Out of those 4 teams you have just named, who's going to win the playoffs? If you say Barnsley, you're off your nut.
It's going to be a playoff final between Watford and Brentford.
Are you saying we're going to beat Bournemouth in the semi-final?
Yeah.
That's a big shout.
Yes, I am. I am saying you're going to beat Bournemouth in the semi-final because I think that's going to be a game like the Luton-Watford game where there was passion oozing out of your players. Not many of the players, but some of the players were in that season that me and you have had so many conversations about, Tom.
Yeah.
I actually think you'll beat them over the course of the 2 legs of each semi-final. But ultimately, I think Brentford are finally going to return to the Premier League.
Return.
Make it. Sorry. They're going to stop you from returning to the Premier League, and Brentford will finally get to the Premier League, is what I was meant to say, but I muddled my words.
All right, Tom, now to you. Who's going to finish 1st and 2nd?
Okay, well, you're going to love me because I've just gone for the basic. I think Norwich are going to win their league. I think we've seen the quality every single week for the past 3 months. They're ridiculous. Emi Buendia should not be in this league. It should be illegal. You just pick up points, even if you don't play amazing. You get the win with debatable penalty. You'll get the win.
Josh Roken. Oh, but who's going to finish second?
You're not over it.
Don't even get me started on that. Your team are disgraceful.
Anyway, Tim, who's going to finish second? Let's go back.
I'm going to go boring again, and I'm just going to go for the top two at the moment. I'll go Swansea. Having watched the Watford-Swansea game the other week, considering we are I say title contender, but we're supposed to be up there, and they just tore us apart. They just constant pressure. We couldn't get out. Eventually, their quality just showed, especially they got a player like Jamal Lowe, who is just a goal scorer at the moment.
And he does like to kind of take the mick, shall we say?
Yeah, but that's always good. That shows a sign of a confidence player that he's clearly enjoying his football at the moment, and it's working.
Enjoying the camera as well, I'm guessing as well.
He does enjoy the GoPro footage.
You can tell he's a fan of the channel.
Aren't we all fans of the Cycling GK?
Big fan of the Cycling GK. Love it.
I hope you've got video notifications on.
Oh yeah, always.
Subscribed, liked, video notifications, but I've tickled that bell on the Cycling GK. All I'm saying is if that does not make it on the Twitter and we get a tag on Ben Foster, oh my God.
Okay, anyway, Tim, what is your next? So from third to sixth, who's going to be in the playoffs?
Now this was difficult, and Josh has done. I like Josh's prediction, but I am going to go for boring yet again, and say that Bournemouth will finish third. I think we've seen it recently. They just have the ability to destroy teams if they're on their day. Was it Huddersfield? They just beat 5-0, just casually. They weren't even really trying. We'll go for Brentford. Okay, so I'm just reading the table. I feel really basic, but that's what I'm thinking.
Well, look,
you'll probably throw
if
it.
you start reading the table for your fifth place prediction, I'm going to start asking you some questions.
Oh no, I was changing fifth. Don't worry, John.
Yes.
So I think Brentford they're very good. They've just got a very good team. Ivan Toney, if he keeps on bagging, then they'll finish in the playoffs quite comfortably, especially with that defence as well. It's looking good. That attack is very strong. Fifth, I'm going to go for the Watford boys. I just think we'll slowly start to just pick up a few points here and there. We'll beat the maybe lower ranking teams and just get our points slowly and steadily. And then sixth, this is a difficult one, Josh. I was intrigued.
It's not easy. I was sat here looking down the table. I got to the mid-table and I was like, do I keep scrolling? Do I keep looking for someone who's going to lunge right up?
Well, I'm looking at 15th and seeing Cardiff from 15th, despite them going on that massive winning run.
Yeah, they were like 8th at one point, or 9th.
Yeah, I mean, I've looked at teams as far down. Well, I kind of got to Preston and looked at them and was like, they don't draw games. They've drawn 2 games all season. They've lost 11 and won 10. It's a really weird league this year. I don't like it.
Yeah, but I'll go for Stoke. I just think Stoke have that ability to have a fortress at home on paper. And I just think they'll pick up the points, they'll get draws, they'll get wins. They're always solid, or relatively solid at the back. And they do seem to score occasionally, they score a few against us. So I think they can score. So I'm
it's the same Stoke fortress at home that got battered 4-0 today.
Yeah. Was that in the cup? I didn't know you were a cup podcast, Josh.
But so, Tom, who's going to go up to the Premier League from the playoffs for you?
From the playoffs, it's Bournemouth. I think they probably deserve it. Obviously, they're third at the moment. And I just think they're way too good. Dom Solanke is actually having a very good season. We touched upon it earlier, especially if they get Jack Wilshere in there as well. It's a very strong team, and I think they'll win the playoffs. What about you, Ducker? Let me guess. You reckon Norwich are going to win the league with 175 points?
176. But
they're not going to break the record. I'm telling you that right now.
No, I don't think we are. I am going to go Norwich top.
That's very surprising,
That
actually.
is. But no, I think once we start absolutely trouncing teams, which will happen, then we will start to. There'll be a clear gap. At second place, I am going to be a bit controversial, and I'm going to go Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth will finish second. They spent a lot of the season there. They're only just taken out, and I think that's because of the amount they draw. But if you look,
it's because they've actually got a game in hand. So
they've also got a game in hand as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Bournemouth will finish second for me. They just don't lose games. They don't often lose games. They've lost 3 games in 22 so far. Yes, they draw a lot, but they can absolutely trounce teams, and when it matters, they can beat teams. And I think Bournemouth will finish second for me. Third place, I am going to go Swansea. Like Josh just said, the defensive qualities of Swansea are unreal, and I think if they cut out the few draws that are there, I reckon they'll be fine for the season, and they'll finish third. With Brentford, no, do you know what? I don't think Brentford will. No, I think Watford will finish fourth.
Brave.
I think Watford will finish fourth. I can see Watford now making a few signings with, Munoz getting a transfer window under his belt, getting a few players he wants, them actually now pushing on, finding a bit of consistent vein of form and pushing up to fourth. What I haven't seen from Brentford yet, and what I know Brentford are liable of, is an inconsistent run of form, a run where they can dip. And we saw this at the start of the season. They were very much around mid-table until about now, where they've actually now started pushing into the playoffs and look deadly. But there is always going to be something around for Brentford where I reckon they will drop points. So I reckon Brentford will finish fifth. And then sixth for me, it's an interesting one. It is an interesting one. But Josh, you're going to hate me for this, and I'm going to put Reading in there. I am going to put Reading in.
Really?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. You guys know how to win games. You've won the second most amount of games in the league, or joint second with Swansea. Yes, you can lose games, but I think you've got a transfer window now. If you get a few bits more defensive quality in there, remember, your manager's still in his first season. He's going to take time to adapt, and this season could be, come towards the back end of it. He might, know the game a bit more, know how to play a defensive style to see out games, and then you could keep that playoff place. Obviously, you're still very shocked that you're still in there, but I think you'll be in there for the season.
Here's where kind of me having a bit of knowledge of the club comes in handy, and the reason that I didn't put us in the top 6 spans ultimately to what I know we can and can't do in this transfer window. The fact that we are allegedly not able to offer Omar Richards a new contract without breaching profit and sustainability rules, which will see him leave. It's going to see him leave the club because he's got 6 months left on his deal, and Bayern Munich wants him. So we're going to lose him. Michael Elise, as I've said so many times, he is still very much at risk of leaving. Having seen us play today, yes, we've got young lads that can kind of step up, but will they get the trust given to them over the likes of Sam Baldock, who is quite frankly Deadwood, and shouldn't be anywhere near the first team. He's had his chances now. He's been proven. I don't think he deserves it anymore. But we can only sign 2 players over the whole window, and that's as at the current point, and it will obviously all come down to profit and sustainability. So that's why I've not gone for Reading in the top 6, because obviously, like you said, we can win games. We're very susceptible to losing games, but I don't think we're going to be able to strengthen over this transfer window, because the players that would get us money, such as Omar Richards, who I think could have gone for at least £10 million because of his age, the players like that, similar to what we had with Danny Loader, we're going to lose on a free because we can't afford to offer them a new deal.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, I still think you're going to finish 6th.
Stoke, appreciate it, but we'll see at the end of the season.
We'll see at the end of the season. But then again, you said this to me when we started POAB. You said this to me. Reading were on a really good run of form at this point, and I said, I still reckon you're going to be in and around the top 6. Come halfway through the season, around January, and you're like, well, we'll wait and see. You weren't confident. You're still 5th.
I don't want to get my hopes up, because when we were top and we were 7 points clear, I started to hope and it got dashed away from me. So I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But who do I think is going to win the playoffs? It's going to have to be Swansea. I think defensively they're just very, very sharp. And in the Premier League, what is proven that you may be very, very good going forward, But if you're not good defensively, you're not going to make it in that league. We look at Norwich when they went up a few seasons back. Very, very nice going forward. Very lovely football. Defensively, absolutely fucking horrific. And that's what got them relegated at the end of the day. But now that Swansea are very, very assured defensively, I reckon they'll go up over Brentford, Reading and Watford, unfortunately, Tim. But you'll make it to the playoff final. Don't worry.
Well, thank you. You both said we're going to get to the final, so I'll take that.
All good then.
I mean, I just think that you're going to get carried by King Ken.
Oh, Kenneth. What a man.
He's so good. Underrated player of the season. He's got to be up there.
Emi Buendia, who?
Next joke. Underrated player of the season. Underrated player of the season, Josh, go on. From your club, underrated player of the season.
Michael Elise.
Underrated, not rated. He's rated. Michael Elise.
At the start of the season, he was not rated.
No, right now. Who was underrated?
Right now?
I know who I'll go with for you.
Josh Laurent.
Fair play, yeah. Tim, what about you? Underrated player from Watford.
Underrated. This is difficult.
I think you need to look at one of your defenders. You need to look at someone like Cabba or Cathcart.
I was thinking. I would say Kiko Feminier, but he is getting the recognition like on Twitter from all the Watford fans.
So is Josh Laurent. I think you should go on like generically in terms of
not just Watford fans, but in general.
Don't go anywhere near Kiko. But obviously, from what I've seen when I've seen Watford with you, he's been solid.
Yeah, I'll go with him then. I think he's been our underrated player of the season. He's just been absolutely solid every single game, essentially. What about you, Ducker? What are you thinking?
And you can't say Emi Buendia.
No, it's not Emi Buendia. It is not. I mean, you'll probably guess because I do rave about him a lot.
Go on,
Surprise us.
Oliver Skipp. So good. He's just everywhere. He's just like...
Imagine not owning your player that you think's the most underrated in the squad.
Sorry, imagine not being top of the league.
God. Duncan, did Oliver Skipp play in the Watford game? I generally just couldn't see him.
Did he? Yeah, he did. We were awful that day. We had a Christmas hangover. We were generally awful. I've never seen us play that bad. But yeah, shall we wrap things up there, guys?
Yeah, I think that's a good point to stop it.
Perfect, guys. If you have enjoyed this, please go like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you want us to talk about in an upcoming video in the upcoming weeks. We might have an exciting podcast for you next week, which might feature a guest. But Tim, where can the fans find us on social media?
Well, we got Twitter using the @Poab podcast. That's POAB podcast. That's what I'm going to be running from now on. So if you like a tweet, then just know it was me. So that's the Twitter. Josh, where else can they find us?
Where else?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, we've got the Instagram, which is poab.podcast. So POAB.podcast. And of course, if you are seeing this video, you'll have found us on YouTube. So please don't forget to hit the like button down below. Click subscribe if you are enjoying our content. Tickle the notification bell to let yourselves know when we have uploaded a new video. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring you some more stuff, obviously going into the new year, and keep an eye on what is going on at the top, what is going on at the bottom, and everything else in between, because this league brings anything and everything. Don't forget to check out the Spotify if you fancy listening to this as an audio. And of course, like we've said, thank you very much for joining us today, Tom. And we hope everyone is staying safe and having a lovely start to the new year and enjoying Lockdown V3. So from me, take care and we'll see you again soon.
See you later, guys.
Thank you.